Okay, so let's talk about penalty cards. We're going to talk about major penalty cards and minor penalty cards. So major penalty cards are hearts and spades, and minor penalty cards are diamonds and clubs. No, wait, I'm sorry. That's not true. Just seeing if you guys are paying attention. So major penalty cards and minor penalty cards. Minor penalty card by definition is a single card with the rank of 9 or lower that is exposed by accident. As in when we talked about when I'm playing 2 cards and one of them stuck behind and is exposed, if it's the rank of a 9 or below, and it will become what's known as a minor penalty card, okay? A deliberately, even though erroneously played card is not a minor penalty card. So an accidentally exposed, maybe I dropped it as I was sorting my hand, that would be a minor penalty card. So the following facts are true about minor penalty cards. They must be left face up on the table. They do not have to be played at their first legal opportunity. They must be played before any spot card. Any card lower than a 9 is played. So if I have the 4 of hearts on the table as a minor penalty card and hearts are led, I cannot play the 9 of hearts before I could play the 4, but I would be allowed to play the rank of a 10 or higher before I would be required to play that minor penalty card. It's permissible to play another suit. I don't have to, if I get on lead, I don't have to lead this minor penalty card. I'm allowed to play another suit if I'd like. And my partner is not subject to lead restrictions if they gain the lead with my minor penalty card. There are no lead restrictions for my partner. But there is some unauthorized information about my holding of this card. Okay, disposition of a major penalty card. So the player with the penalty card must play this card at their first legal opportunity, whether it is by leading, following suit, discarding, or trumping. So if the partner of the player with the penalty card gains the lead while the card is still on the table, then the declarer then at that time can require the lead of that suit one time. That card is then picked up, put in their hand, and they can play any one of that suit that they hold. They're allowed to prohibit the lead of that suit as long as that person is on lead. Again, that card is picked up, put in their hand. And then you can allow the lead, the defender's choice, any card they'd like, but that card is going to remain on the table. If the partner cannot comply with the requirement or actually it would be requirement, then the penalty card is still picked up nonetheless. So if I'm not really paying attention and my right-hand opponent has a heart on the table and I say to my left-hand opponent, I would like you to lead a heart now, and they don't have a heart, this card is still picked up and all of that portion is over because he has exercised his right and was not able, he exercised his right against the heart suit, and this person, whether or not they had a heart, it was completed, so that card is picked up. So skill sets you're going to need: knowing the difference between major and minor penalty cards, understanding that rectification often comes in discrete steps, and that card may remain on the table for several tricks, being diligent to the payment of the correct penalty at the correct time, and maybe needing to repeat their options. You give them their options at the time that the card hits the table, and they may say, well, let's just leave it there and let them lead anything. And they may play 2 or 3 more tricks. And now this person's back on lead. That card is still there as a penalty card, and they still have the same options. So the important thing as a director is that you remain at the table until that card is disposed of. If you walk away, if you kind of give them some general instructions and say, yeah, you need to play that at your first opportunity and leave, and somehow they don't do that, you've created the next problem as the director. So it's important for us as directors. I understand that we have some clubs that have playing directors, and this is one of the problems with being a playing director. I understand that it's required or preferred for some of the smaller clubs for sure to have that extra pair in their game. But this is going to be a position where you're just going to have to say to the people that you're supposed to be at the table playing with, I'm sorry, this is where I have to be right now. And it may be that you fall behind. It may be that you have to take a late play on a board. It may be that it gives you so much information about the hand that's being played that you have to perhaps take a no play on the board and give your opponents an average plus, something like that. So there's a lot of different things to consider when you are a playing director. All right, exposed cards. There was a small change in the law from 2017 regarding exposed cards. So cards that are exposed or led during the auction, how did it get there? Without the player's own error. So they just took their cards out of the board, and there were some cards that were backwards. We have, this was not their fault. So we would just try to stay by and protect. There is some extraneous information that's become available. We tried to save the board. We tried to have them have a result. But if somehow the exposure of that card causes damage, we would be there to adjust the score if we need to do that. Also, we might consider a procedural penalty. The law allows us to do that. I certainly wouldn't be a penalty happy director in a club game. I would go and admonish the player, suggest to them that they need to be more careful as they're putting their cards back in the board. But I think that procedural penalties are not ideal for a club environment. We're trying to bring people back. We're trying for people to have a good time, and mistakes happen. So just do your best to try to keep those from happening again. So a card exposed or led during the auction, this is the change. It used to just say, now it says during the auction. So used to, if you were sorting your hand even before a call was made and you dropped a card on the table, this law came into effect. Now it's only during the auction. So someone would have needed to have made a call at the table. If you drop a card, a low card, obviously the rank again is 9 or below. If you drop one accidentally after the first call is made in the auction, there is no penalty, but that card would remain on the table. And if they become defenders, it would become a minor penalty card. If it's an honor not led, or any card led, or 2 cards exposed, that is a major situation, a major penalty card situation. And so partner is going to have to pass at their next opportunity to call in the auction. So this, if we accidentally drop a jack on the table after a call has been made, our partner is going to be required to pass one time. And it would become a major penalty card if we end up as defenders. Okay, compulsory play of a card. We're going to talk about played cards here. So a card held so that it's possible for his partner to see it for a defender must be played to the current trick. Now, the standard that we use oftentimes, and I don't know, I think this is probably the best way, is just to use my hand as a card. But a defender's played card is going to be different than a declarer's played card. So if I have my played card like this, and I have it tilted like this, my left-hand opponent can see it. Or if I have it tilted like this, my right-hand opponent can see it. But what the law says is if it's held in a position that my partner would have the opportunity to see it. So for that to happen, the card has to be almost flat at the table. And a way we would know if partner had the opportunity to see it, if it was held in that position, is that both the left-hand opponent and the right-hand opponent would be able to tell us what that card is. And if they both know what the card is, not from speaking it at the table, but if they both know what the card is, then there's the likelihood that it was held in a position that the partner could have had the opportunity to see the card. It doesn't mean that they did, and rarely will they say they did, and maybe they haven't. But in this situation, it was held in a position that they could have, and in that position, it is a played card. So a compulsory play of a card for a declarer. Declarer must play it if it is held face up, nearly touching the table, or maintained in such a position to be played. Our players should be in the habit of taking their card out and placing it on the table when they're playing to a trick, but they don't all do that. Some of them kind of hold it in between their fingers and just kind of stick it out there and hold it out there, okay? But it's maintained in a position. So it's not that they've taken the card and have gotten it almost to the table. And, you'll have players that will say, I saw it. I saw what he was going to play. Well, for a declarer, it's different. Declarer could turn his whole hand and show you all of his cards, but they're not played cards. It's different for a declarer. So it needs to be nearly touching, or maintain in a position to be played. And by the way, it's the same standard when we're using the bidding boxes for a bid. This is the definition that we use for a bid. So if someone reaches into the box and pulls out 3 spades and almost has it to the table and then goes, oh, I've changed my mind, and they want to put it back, they're allowed to put it back. There is no automatic penalty here. It is not a bid until it is placed with intention on the table. It could be that they've pulled out the pass card. We have this happen all the time, where somebody pulls out the pass card, everybody knows it's the pass card, almost gets it to the table, and then decides, no, I think I'll open a club. Okay, so they're allowed to do that, but there is unauthorized information now, which their partner is not allowed to take advantage of. So in these situations, you have to step in and you have to admonish. You have to first say to the partner of the person who's done this nonsense, don't take advantage, don't draw any inference by the action, and just bid as if your partner opened a club, respond. And then for the person who's doing this, you need to admonish them as well and let them know that in the future, before they have reached for the box, they need to make a decision and know what action it is that they're wanting to take. Compulsory play of a card for the dummy. Distinguish between laws 45C, which is compulsory play of a named card, and your incomplete erroneous call of a card from dummy. So a card must be played if a player names or otherwise designates it as the card he proposes. The declarer may correct an unintended designation of a card from the dummy until he next plays a card from either his own hand or the dummy. A change of designation may be allowed after a slip of the tongue, but not after the loss of concentration or a reconsideration of action. Okay, and I will say that this is often some of the most difficult times we have at the table. We don't have an instant replay camera, and you're always going to have in these situations 2 people that are going to be unhappy with you and 2 people that are going to be happy with you when you leave the table, because they want their side to be able to change their call, and the others may want them to have to stick with their call. So, but we have our laws commission with ACBL that said the bottom line is that there should be a strong presumption that the card called is the one that was intended to be called. And so that's kind of the standard we use. And then just keeping in mind that if the next card played to the trick by the defender contains some information that might have said for the declarer to go, oh, I didn't know, I meant to call, I called the wrong card or something like that. If you're going to allow a change, you need to be very, very certain that it was incontrovertible. Okay, so a conversation away from the table may help you understand what the declarer was thinking. Maybe they got a trick ahead of themselves. Maybe they just hadn't solved the bridge problem. But these are the things that you kind of have to take into consideration if you are considering allowing a change of call by the declarer. So in the case of an incomplete call by the declarer of the card to be played, the following applies, except when their intention is incontrovertible. And incontrovertible is a pretty high bar. I had a director in Houston who allowed a change of call, and I said, you know, myself and another director, we were just talking about this the other day, and I was asking him, where is the bar that you set? When do you allow a change of call? And the director I was speaking with said, almost never. And this director now said, oh, I always let them change it. So it's important that that they are able to prove to us, and the onus is on them to prove to us as directors what their true intent was, and that there was no possibility that they've had a change of mind or a loss of concentration in these situations. So a compulsory play of a card from the dummy, high is highest, winning it with the lowest card that will win the trick, low, suit but not rank, rank but not a suit. So this is a question that we actually have on our directing exam that people miss. And that is that in leading a declarer is continuing the suit of a previous trick if the rank exists in that suit. If not, leading, then the declarer must play a card of that rank if he can legally do so. So in the example in our test is that they have won the trick on the dummy, the trump trick, and now they call for the queen, and they have all 4 queens. And the question is the dummy allowed to ask which queen? And the answer here is no, because it is assumed that when they have won the trick in a specific suit and call queen, if that rank is on dummy, that is the queen that they're calling for. A card not in the dummy, if we call for the 3 of hearts and the 3 of spades is in the dummy, but the 3 of hearts is not, they're not required to play the 3 of spades because they've called for a card that is not in the dummy. They called for a specific 3 of spades. They didn't just call for a 3. If they called for a 3, then they would have to play some 3 on the dummy. Play anything, either defender may designate the play of what they're going to play. But this is, again, goes to their intention is incontrovertible. So we can't make them play their ace of trump, throw off their ace of trump on something, because clearly that was not their intent when they said play anything. They're just throwing off some loser in another suit. So we would allow you to make that determination. We would allow the defenders to choose something, but not something that's outrageously obvious that this would never be their intent. Okay, compulsory play of a card for the dummy. Incontrovertible is a very strong adjective. It should be applied sparingly. If you do allow the play other than what was specified, you need to stand ready to adjust if you find out later that their intention was not so incontrovertible after all. So we're going to have just a few examples here. Compulsory play of a card. So we have south is in 7 spades, and you can follow me with the play. It says the opening lead is the king of clubs, excuse me. So they play the king of clubs, south trumps in the dummy. He draws 2 rounds of trump, and let's see, he draws 2 rounds of trump, leads the 5 and says play. So he has he's led the 5 to his ace. He's trumped another club. He's leads the final trump from the dummy to his hand, draws the last trump, and now plays the 5 of diamonds and says play. And then he says, I mean the ace. Okay. So in this situation, you can weigh in the chat. Would you allow him to change his call? Most of you are saying yes. And yes is the correct answer, because his play is obvious. It is obviously incontrovertible. He has played the hand in a careful way to take care of all the business he needed to before going to his dummy, which is his only option. This is his only time to get to the diamonds now. And so we would allow the change of designation here because it is incontrovertible. So here's a second example. South is in 4 hearts. The opening lead is the Jack of Spades, which declarer wins on the dummy. He plays the Jack of Hearts. I'm sorry, he leads a diamond to his ace, plays the Jack of Hearts. West plays low and he lets it ride. He follows with the 10 and says small, starts to play small. When he sees his left-hand opponent play the King of Hearts, will we allow him to say win it here? Will we allow him to change his card? Okay, I like it. Not this year. Yes, so we would not allow a change here. Even though he didn't completely say the word small, we see that he has made a bridge decision. And he failed to wait to observe the play of his left-hand opponent. And so when he says small like this, we're going to hold him to that, and he's going to play small. One more example, South is in 6 spades. The King of Diamonds is won by the declarer's ace. Takes a few moments to plan his play, and he leads the King of Spades and calls for the ace from the dummy and blurts out, I mean small. Are we going to allow a change here? So this is a case where we might need to do a little investigation and try to maybe take the declarer away from the table, find out what happened. And that's exactly what I would say to them when I would take them away from the table, and I would say, so what happened? And I mean, you might be able to, sometimes you can kind of lead them down this primrose path of, oh, were you meaning to play king and then you were going to play small to the ace? You just kind of got ahead of yourself or whatever. And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, that's, oh, okay, thank you. And you sit down and you make them play the ace. So you can kind of you need to get into the mind though of the declarer before you can really make a decision. But there has to be in this case, it's likely that he just got a trick ahead of himself. And so again, the burden of proof is on them to be able to convince you what his line of play was and what happened during the play that you would allow a change.